What's happened? From the moment Klopp said he was out at the end of the season, from that point onwards, what has happened to Liverpool? Martin, just in the passing, one or two people constantly say to me, the moment Klopp announced it, that Friday morning, nothing was going to be the same again. Now, we knew that. Nothing was going to be the same again. Probably for Liverpool, from a football point of view, from within the club, from inside the club, etc., etc. Do you think the timing of it has had a real bearing on what's happened to Liverpool since then? Out of the Europa League, of course. No longer challenging, whereas before they were. All of a sudden, this deck of cards has folded. And it's gone against Klopp, and it's gone against Liverpool. At one stage, we talked about quadruple. It's all gone pear-shaped.
Well, I don't agree with that. I don't agree. We don't know what the inside situation was, but it's seemingly, Klopp did not want to announce his leaving as early as he did, and I think the story was going to break. I'm getting that news coming through. Let's take that there as the case, and therefore he makes the announcement. And people thought, well, gosh, I'm sure he would like to have waited a lot longer than that. Because there's only so many times.
So you don't think there's any bearing on it?
So there's only so many times you can say goodbye.
But just wait here,
yeah. But if you were having this conversation with me the day after they've just won the League Cup, and the emotion that particular day, he says himself it was one of the best days ever in his managerial career, and it will live for him forever, and he's won the big trophies. So at the end of it all, you would have said that night as they travelled back, this is a great time to have announced it. But I'm sure he must himself, every single time a game finishes at Anfield, when he goes to the crowd, he would normally have been doing that over the last number of years. Each time, I'm sure he's thinking to himself, well, it's a game less now. So if you're telling me that his announcement away back when it was is the reason for them falling away, I don't agree with that.
Well, let me phrase it a different way. Okay. Was the wave of emotion for Klopp's goodbye, was that only ever going to carry them so far?
Well, it's the same point you make. To me, when is too far? Because the League Cup happened a couple of months after he made the announcement. Therefore, it was still okay then. So, no, they've fallen away because they essentially they haven't really been good enough to stay with Manchester City and Arsenal. And the results dictate that. So after a result, you can say exactly what you want. Oh gosh almighty, he should never have announced it until about a week or two ago. I'm telling you, we're in the results business, and results dictate what people think.
What's your take on it, Simon?
Well, my take on it is that the narrative that we're spinning is, or potentially being spun, is that directly after his announcement, there was always going to be a challenge for Liverpool. And nothing was going to be the same. Well, on the 26th of January, when he announced that he was going to leave, that weekend, Liverpool smashed Chelsea 4-1. They lost to Arsenal the following weekend. They beat Burnley 3-1. They beat Brentford 4-1. They beat Luton 4-1. They won the League Cup. They beat Forest 1-0. They beat Sparta Prague 5-1. They drew with City, and they beat Sparta Prague 6-1 in this releg. So that doesn't look like much of a hangover to me. I think what happens is the FA Cup quarter-final against Manchester United, and they dominated that game, and they should have been out of sight, and somehow something happened in the course of that game that seems to have changed the direction of travel for Man United, because everything seems to stem off the back of that performance. I'm not suggesting that's the only reason. I'm sure there's a multitude of reasons. But if we're going to spin it up, not us, I mean, ultimately, if the conversation is going to be spun up into, oh, it's ridiculous that he announced that he was leaving on January the 26th, then look at the next 10 games after that, because those 10 games were more of the same from Liverpool. Sparta Moscow were not mugs. They beat him 11-2 in the Europa League. 5-1 away. Sparta Prague.
So you look at it, though, and you see where they've got to now, though, Martin. Here he is, he's star player, obviously, arguably, Salah. And now we're looking at a touchline tiff at the London Stadium when he's putting them on in the 79th minute or whenever it was at the weekend. This is where it's got to. This is where we're at now, Liverpool. Whether you read anything into it, you don't. The announcement that it was going was made in January, and I accept that. And then the Carabao Cup win was in February. Now, but thereafter, it's been a downward spiral, has it not? I mean, Simon's saying, yeah, sure. No, they've gone here and there and they've won. Yes, they have. But it hasn't been the same. Whatever way you look at it.
Simon highlights a game against Manchester United in the Cup, and I wouldn't disagree with that. I think you could actually, if you wanted to, pinpoint that there's a change in terms of results, and a change in the fact that they now can no longer win all the trophies that they thought they might have a chance of, although that was pure speculation a way back. But getting back to your point about the tiff, yeah, it's unfortunate really, because two iconic figures fighting with each other, or certainly verbally having a go at each other, is not a great scene, and not a great scene for Liverpool. Klopp has been a phenomenal manager there, and Salah's been a phenomenal player. Okay, Salah has been, I think I've been, and I've got no reason to disbelieve myself here, but I don't have any proof of it otherwise. But he seems to be an unhappy figure for a number of times. He's been left out of games when you think to yourself, your main player, your main lad could maybe win you some of those games. And I'm quite sure that Salah was probably really disappointed at not starting this game that Liverpool probably in the last throws needed to win.
So you think that's what it was, and nothing more than that?
Well, I think about a tiff, as I said to you. Klopp has stayed out of it. Salah has mentioned something at the end of it all by saying, oh, listen, I don't really want to say that much. Here's your point. It's not a great scene to find two big figures at a very big football club arguing over who's going on. I've had situations myself as a manager where players are coming off really, really angry with me. I thought, well, I'll deal with that. I don't want them to make it a public thing. We can deal with it in the dressing room. But that's the point. I remember one in particular, John Hartson. I took John off in a game, and John confronted me afterwards, and I thought he was right up to my face about why I took him off. It was really because he hadn't run around, and but overall that's a kind of a joke. But at the end of the day, I thought he's right up here, and I thought physically, I know who's going to win this battle. So I tried to get a little bit of help from some of the other players who, that's the time that you realise how unpopular you are in the dressing room. Listen, I'm joking. I am joking in that sense, but they did side with John. So
they sided with John when Hartson confronted you.
Essentially, they went round the back and urging John on to continue the argument, as most players would want to do when they think they feel their manager is under a little bit of pressure. Okay,
were you worried?
Only physically for a second or two, but not in any other aspect.
The thing is, this was in the dressing room, was it?
This was in the dressing room.
Saturday wasn't, Martin.
That's my whole point.
Well, this is it. He's about to put Salah on the 79th minute of the game very publicly.
Yeah.
And then there's a bit of a now. I mean, listen to it. Klopp spoke post-match, albeit very, very short. Salah was even shorter. First, Klopp on the incident.
We spoke about that in the dressing room, and with that, it's done for me. That's all, and that's it.
Salah strolls through the mix zone where you've got an opportunity to speak to players as they leave. He was even shorter. There'll be fire if I speak.
Well, he's not happy about going on at the moment. He is. I think he was trying to get on the field before that there, and then West Ham scored the goal, and he's gesticulating to the managers have to say, well, why are you doing this now at this stage? I should have been on before that. That's what I'm assuming has been said. And having had the experience of that there a couple of times, as I said to you, generally speaking, there was no fight of players going onto the field, so I've never actually encountered that. It was more players coming off the field that might be wanting to chunter a little bit beforehand.
Chunter, great word. Yeah. So the square root of goal, going back to the original point, Simon, is it's not working out the way Klopp would have wanted.
No, of course not.
It's not working out the way maybe John W. or Werner would have wanted from distance.
It's certainly working out well for Arne Slot, because he doesn't walk into this wonderful harmonious environment where the fellas walked out winning 3 trophies, and he's got to follow that. So there's something in that for the next manager coming in. I think there's frustration. I think if you look at the altercation, it starts with Klopp saying something to Salah, which Salah reacted to. And I wonder if Klopp wasn't feeling so frustrated about recent results, because he talked about the result against Everton midweek and just said, we've got to play better football. So clearly he's frustrated with what's in front of him. He can't quite work it out himself how we've got to this position. And he's trying not to give people headlines, but trying to be as upfront as he possibly can in an interview about his unhappiness with what he's watching. So he's trying to walk this line between saying what he really wants to say and ultimately not giving people a narrative they can pull at. So you see the frustration that Klopp has. He said something. I don't recall Klopp saying much to players on the touchline that can involve an altercation. So he's frustrated. Salah, probably the balance of power shifted. The manager's going. I wonder if a year ago, when Klopp was in ascendancy and complete control, whether the player would have bitten back. And maybe Salah's motivations are different. I think it's immature and childish for a player to walk through the mixer zone and need to say that. He didn't need to say anything. He didn't need to tell you what he said. He chose to say it because that's about what players think they can say. That's about a lack of respect. You have altercations every day of the week in every training ground, be it before a match, in dressing rooms. There will be altercations.
But in January, Simon, when Klopp made his announcement, did he lose any of his authority?
When you lose games, you lose authority. That's what happens with football managers. And ultimately, you know, you're always going to have a diminishing scenario when someone goes out the door. We were running the argument when it suited us that the players would be absolutely unequivocally behind sending him off with every single trophy they possibly could.
We asked the question, would they be?
Well, if your dressing room is what you think it is, then ideally, in an ideal world, there's no reason why it shouldn't, because the players aren't just playing for a manager, they're playing for themselves. It's their own achievements. The players are the ones that tend to walk out with most of the plaudits and most of the recognition and most of the rewards, and managers get it, of course, by association. So I think nothing helps. I mean, you look at those games and you look at the Man United Cup quarter-final, you look at the Cup, the game 2 weeks later against United when they draw again with them. You know, they bounce off the game against United and they beat Brighton and they win the next two games. But look, it's a contributing factor, and of course, an altercation on the touchline, which is nothing really, is going to make headlines. Is Salah going to go? Yeah, I think he is.
Do you think he goes, Martin?
I really don't know that. I don't know. Simon makes the point. Would Salah have done that there had this time last year, for instance? I would say it's probably doubtful, but there is the feeling that the manager's leaving. And if you've had one or two tiffs with him in recent months, and it's just a boiling of frustration. Yeah. It's not a great scene, particularly with, as I said, two legendary figures at Liverpool. And if they were going to say anything, it should have been in the dressing room, which I'm quite sure it probably was. And Simon makes a really good point about Salah should have said nothing. He should have just passed on.
Just walked through. Yeah. And forgotten about it. The most recent intel this morning is that Salah is set to stay at Liverpool. That's the latest word we're getting at the moment, that he is set to stay. Not staying at Chelsea is one Thiago Silva, who's announced, or the club has announced, that he'll leave Chelsea at the end of the season. Thought he would, and he will. He's out there, the Brazilian. We're coming up to 11:20.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app, and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.